I'm Tom, a long-haul trucker with 15 years of dust and diesel under my belt. I've seen the Midwest's highways in every mood: blazing summer sun, autumn fog thick as soup, and winter nights so cold your breath freezes on the windshield. Nothing ever shook me. Not deer with eyes like mirrors, not hitchhikers with shifty grins, not even the stories old-timers tell over stale coffee at 3 a.m. But last January, on a lonely stretch of Interstate 80 in Nebraska, something found me, something I can't unsee. My rig rumbled through the darkness, the only sound the low growl of the engine and the faint country twang on the radio. It was 2 a.m., January 12th, and the Nebraska plains were a frozen void. Stars glittered like knife points above, and the cold pressed against the cab like it wanted in. I was hauling frozen beef from Omaha to Denver, a route I'd run 100 times. Easy money, or so I thought. Then I saw it, a figure on the shoulder, standing under a streetlight that flickered like it was on its last breath. Thumb out, head bowed, bundled in a heavy coat. A hitchhiker. My gut churned. Rule 1 of trucking: don't pick up strays. Too many stories about knives, scams, or worse. But this guy looked desperate. His breath clouded in the air, like he'd been standing there for hours, alone in the sub-zero night. I slowed the rig, tires crunching on the gravel shoulder. The streetlight buzzed, then went out, plunging him into shadow. My headlights caught the glint of his coat's zipper. I leaned over, popped the passenger door, and called out, "Where you headed?" No answer, just the wind howling across the plains. Why was he standing there, alone, in the dead of night? He climbed into the cab, moving slow, deliberate, like he was carrying something heavy. The door slammed shut, and the air turned thick, like the cab had shrunk. He kept his hood up, face hidden in shadow, and pointed west down Interstate 80. "West," he said, voice low, raspy, like he'd swallowed sand. I shifted into gear, the rig lurching forward. "You got a name?" I asked, trying to fill the silence. Nothing, just the hum of the engine and the faint crackle of the radio. I glanced at him. His hands, gloved in worn leather, sat folded in his lap. The heater was cranked, but the cab felt colder than the night outside. My breath fogged, curling in the air like smoke. "Long way to Denver," I tried again. "You from around here?" No response, just that hooded figure, staring straight ahead. I gripped the wheel tighter, my knuckles white. Something was wrong. The air smelled faintly of damp earth, like a freshly dug grave. Why wouldn't he speak? And why was the cab so cold? The radio, my constant companion on these runs, started acting up. The country station faded into static, a low hiss that scratched at my nerves. I fiddled with the dial, but it didn't help. Then through the noise came whispers, faint, overlapping, like a crowd murmuring just out of reach. I froze, my hand hovering over the knob. "You hear that?" I said, glancing at the passenger. He didn't move, didn't even blink. The whispers grew louder, words I couldn't make out, like they were speaking in a language I didn't know. I switched the radio off. The static stopped, but the whispers didn't. They were inside the cab now, circling me, brushing against my ears like cold fingers. I looked over, and for a split second, his hood was empty, just a black void where a face should have been. I blinked, heart pounding, and there was a face again, pale, gaunt, with eyes like deep wells, staring right through me. Was that shadow in his hood real, or was I losing it? "You okay, man?" I asked, my voice cracking. He turned his head, slow, deliberate, and stared at me. His eyes were black pits, no whites, no shine. "You see them too, don't you?" He said, his voice a low growl, layered, like a dozen voices speaking at once. "See who?" I croaked, my mouth dry. He pointed out the windshield. I looked, and my blood turned to ice. The road was lined with figures, pale, blurry shapes, standing just beyond the headlights' reach. They didn't move, just stood there, heads turning as we passed, like mannequins come to life. Their faces were smudged, like bad photographs, but their eyes burned into me. I slammed on the brakes, the trailer fishtailing with a scream of rubber. "Get out!" I shouted, my voice barely a whisper over the pounding in my chest. He didn't move, just kept staring. "You can't outrun them," he said, and the voices layered again, echoing inside my skull. Who, or what, were those figures watching from the dark? I reached for the door handle, ready to bolt, my heart hammering so hard I thought it had burst. I glanced back, and the passenger seat was empty. No coat, no gloves, no sign he'd ever been there. The air was warm again, the whispers gone, replaced by the hum of the idling engine. I sat there panting, staring at the empty seat. Was I losing it? I'd been up for 18 hours, chugging energy drinks like water. Maybe it was a hallucination, my mind playing tricks. But the smell of damp earth lingered, and when I touched the passenger seat, it was cold, like someone had left the window open in a blizzard. I floored it, the rig roaring back to life. I needed light, people, anything to shake this feeling. The mile markers ticked by, each one a lifeline pulling me toward dawn. But in the rearview mirror, I kept seeing a flicker, a shadow in the shape of a hooded figure, sitting where he'd been. If he was gone, why did I still feel him watching me? I pulled into a truck stop just as the sky turned gray with dawn. The neon sign buzzed. Half the letters burned out, spelling EAT in flickering red. I stumbled inside, the smell of burnt coffee and grease hitting me like a warm blanket. The waitress, a tired woman with gray streaks in her hair, poured me a cup without asking. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, her voice flat, but her eyes sharp. I laughed, nervous, and muttered something about a long night. She leaned in, her name tag reading, Doris. "You were on I-80, weren't you? That stretch past Ogallala." My stomach dropped. "How'd you know?" She didn't answer, just slid a napkin across the counter. On it was a single word, scrawled in shaky pen. Don't. What did Doris know about that road, and why wouldn't she say more? Back in the cab, I checked the passenger seat again, half expecting to see him sitting there. Nothing, just my thermos and a crumpled map. But when I reached down to adjust the seat, my hand brushed something stiff and cold. A glove. Black leather crusted with frost, like it had been pulled from a freezer. I stared at it, my pulse racing. The heater had been on all night. Nothing should have been frozen. I grabbed it, the leather crackling under my fingers, and threw it out the window. But as I drove away, I saw it in the side mirror, lying on the pavement, fingers curled like it was reaching for something. The radio crackled on, unprompted, spitting static and whispers again. This time I caught a word. "Tom." My name, hissed by a voice that wasn't mine. I ripped the plug out, but the whispers kept coming, louder, angrier, until they filled the cab like a swarm of bees. How did it know my name, and what did it want? I didn't stop again until Denver, unloading the trailer in a daze. I told myself it was over, just a bad night, a trick of the mind. But that evening, I couldn't shake the need to know. I hit up a dive bar near the depot, where drivers swapped stories over cheap beer. An old-timer, face like weathered leather, overheard me mention I-80. "You saw him, didn't you?" he said, eyes narrowing. "The hitchhiker." I froze, beer halfway to my lips. "What do you know about him?" He leaned in, voice low. "Been stories for years. Drivers picking up a man on Interstate 80, always at night, always westbound. They say he's tied to a crash back in '98, a pileup that killed a dozen folks. Some say he's looking for someone. Others say he's collecting. Collecting what? I asked, my throat tight. The old-timer didn't answer, just pointed to a photo on the wall, a grainy shot of a wrecked semi, snow piled around it, dated January 1998. In the corner, barely visible, was a figure in a hooded coat, standing untouched amid the wreckage. Was that the man I'd picked up, or something else entirely? I quit trucking a week later, sold my rig, took a job stocking shelves at a warehouse. I couldn't face the road again, not after that night. But the whispers didn't stop. They came at night, faint at first, then louder, always saying my name. I burned the glove in a dumpster behind the truck stop, watched it curl and blacken in the flames, but it didn't help. Last night I woke up to static coming from my old CB radio, the one I'd packed away in the garage. It was unplugged, but the whispers were there, clear as day. Tom, Route 19, again. I don't know what's out there on Interstate 80. I don't know if it's a ghost, a curse, or something worse. But I know one thing. It's not done with me. And deep down, I know I'll drive that road again. Because whatever it is, it's been waiting for me since that night. Will I ever escape the thing that found me on Interstate 80? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next. I'm Sarah, a long-haul trucker who's spent a decade crisscrossing the lower 48. I've driven every major highway, from the sun-scorched asphalt of I-10 to the foggy back roads of Maine. I've seen things that make you question. Truck stops where the neon flickers in Morse code, CB chatter from voices too young to be out here, and once, a coyote that shadowed my rig for miles at 70 miles per hour, its eyes glowing like embers. But nothing compares to what happened last summer on a lonesome stretch of State Route 305 in Nevada. It was midnight, and I was hauling auto parts from Reno to Elko. Route 305 is a desolate ribbon of asphalt, slicing through sand and sagebrush. No cell service, no traffic, just you and the void. I was tired, my eyes heavy from too many hours staring at the same yellow line, but I had to make my delivery by dawn. The GPS said 50 miles to go, and I settled in, sipping lukewarm coffee, the hum of the engine my only company. Then the road got wrong. The mile markers, painted white on the shoulder, kept showing the same number, mile 42. I passed it once, twice, then a third time, my speed steady at 65. I checked the odometer, hadn't moved in 20 minutes. My stomach twisted. I've had GPS glitches before, but this felt different, like the road was lying to me. Why was I stuck at mile 42, like the world was on repeat? I shook it off, blaming the late hour and my third energy drink. Then, out of the darkness, a sign loomed in my headlights. Welcome to Coldwater, Nevada. Population. Uchis on Iki never heard of Coldwater. It wasn't on my map, and I know Nevada's back roads like the back of my hand. Still, small towns pop up in the middle of nowhere sometimes. Ghost towns reborn for a season. The road curved into a cluster of buildings. A gas station, a diner, a few houses, all glowing under sodium lights like they were waiting for me. I pulled into the gas station, the gravel crunching under my tires. The pumps were ancient, rusted, their hoses cracked like old skin. Across the street, the diner's windows glowed, but they were fogged up, hiding whatever was inside. I cut the engine, the silence rushing in like a wave. I needed to stretch my legs, maybe find someone to ask about this place. But the air outside was sharp, like ozone after a lightning strike, and it stung my nose. What was that smell, and why did it feel like the town was watching me? I crossed the street to the diner, my boots loud against the gravel. The closer I got, the quieter the world became. No crickets, no wind, just an unnatural hush that swallowed every sound. The diner's door creaked open, and I stepped inside. Empty. No staff, no customers, just rows of booths with coffee cups steaming on the tables, like everyone had vanished mid-sip. I called out, "Hello." My voice didn't echo. It just died, like the air at it. Then I heard it, a low hum, deep and steady, coming from the back. It wasn't just sound. It vibrated in my chest, like a heartbeat that wasn't mine. Against every instinct screaming to leave, I followed it to the kitchen. There, behind a stainless steel counter, was a door I hadn't noticed, slightly ajar, leading to a basement. The hum grew louder, pulling at me, and I could feel it in my bones now, like it was calling my name. What was down there, and why did I feel like it wanted me to find out? I pushed the door open. A staircase descended into darkness, but at the bottom, a faint red glow pulsed, like a dying ember. My flashlight beam shook in my hand as I took a step down. The air grew colder, thicker, the ozone smell so strong it burned my throat. Halfway down, I saw them, shapes moving in the glow. Too tall, too thin, their limbs bending at angles that made my stomach lurch. They were chanting, not words, just sounds, low, guttural, like grinding metal. My head throbbed, my vision blurred, and I swear one of them turned, its face a blank smear where eyes should have been. I bolted, my boots slipping on the stairs. I ran through the diner, out into the street, and the town had changed. The houses were dark, their windows black as oil. The gas station was a skeleton of rusted beams, like it had been abandoned for decades. I jumped into my rig, slammed the key into the ignition, and floored it. The road stretched on, mile 42 repeating again and again, the sign mocking me in the headlights. Had the town been real, or was I losing my mind? My CB radio crackled to life, unprompted. A voice, not human, too deep, too slow, filled the cab. "You shouldn't have looked, Sarah." My name. It knew my name. My hands shook on the wheel, my heart pounding so hard I thought it had burst. I didn't touch the radio, didn't answer, just kept driving. The mile markers refusing to budge. The ozone smell seeped into the cab, sharp and electric, and the hum from the diner followed me, vibrating in my chest. I don't know how long I drove. Hours, maybe, or minutes that felt like forever. The sky lightened and suddenly the mile markers started counting up again. Mile 43, 44, 45. I hit Elko at sunrise, my hands still trembling as I parked at the depot. The GPS showed I'd only traveled 10 miles from where I first saw the Coldwater sign. 10 miles? I'd been driving for hours. How could hours of driving cover only 10 miles? I tried to shake it off, told myself it was exhaustion, a bad trip. But when I checked my dash cam, which runs 24/7, the footage from those hours was blank, just static, like the night had been erased. I looked up Coldwater, Nevada, on my phone later. No such place, not a trace, not even in old records. I asked other drivers at the depot, but they just shook their heads, said I must have taken a wrong turn. But I know Route 305. There was no turn. That night, I sat in a motel, the TV on low to drown out the silence. I kept smelling ozone, faint but unmistakable, like the air before a storm. My CB unplugged and sitting on the nightstand, crackled. That voice again, slow and deep. "Sarah, you looked." I yanked the batteries out, threw the radio across the room, but the hum was there, in my chest, in my head. Why did it keep saying my name, and what did it mean I looked? I hit a bar the next night, needing noise, people, anything to feel normal. An old driver, his face creased like a road map, overheard me talking about Route 305. He leaned over, whiskey on his breath. "You saw Coldwater, didn't you?" he said, eyes glinting. "How do you know that name?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He didn't smile. It shows up sometimes on that road. Not always. Drivers see it, pull in, and not all of them come back. They say it's a place that shouldn't be, a trap for folks who look too close. "What's down there?" I asked, my throat tight. "In the basement?" He shook his head, drained his glass. "You don't want to know what they're chanting for. Just don't go back." He slid a napkin across the bar, a single word scratched into it. "Run." What was in that basement, and why did it feel like it wasn't done with me? I kept driving after that, but I avoided Route 305. Took longer routes, burned more fuel, anything to stay away. But the hum never left. It's there when I close my eyes, a vibration that makes my teeth ache. The ozone smell follows me, creeping into the cab on late-night runs. Last week I found something under my seat, a rusted key, cold as ice, with no lock to match it. I threw it into a ditch, but when I checked the next day, it was back, sitting on my dashboard, gleaming like it was new. Last night, my CB crackled again, though I hadn't touched it in months. That voice, slow and deep, filled the cab. "Sarah, mile 42, come back." I smashed the radio with a wrench, but the words kept coming, echoing in my head. I don't know what's out there on Route 305. I don't know if it's a town, a curse, or something older, something hungrier. But I know it's waiting. And I know, deep down, that road isn't done with me. Will I ever escape the pull of mile 42? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.